Hey, welcome back to another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm yours, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson, aka Uncle Tex, aka Professor Tex. Before we get started, I'd like for y'all to go ahead and subscribe to the page, smash that like button, and whatnot. Any questions or concerns or anything like that, let me know what's going on and whatnot. We can go ahead on and we can go ahead and go from there and whatnot. Damn, Mr. Damn Picture, man. Shit. Here we go. There we go. Got it. As y'all well know, the great Fraco Harris passed away yesterday at the age of 72 and whatnot. And y'all know me being a Dallas fan, but first and foremost, for me being a Dallas fan, I'm a big fan of football. As y'all well know, y'all probably seen that epic meltdown and whatnot of the Colts last Saturday. Showed y'all pretty much. I hate to see bad football play. I can't stand it. It just makes me sick. It does a disservice to the game. And which brings me to the Steelers and this whole thing with the great Franco Harris passing. Uh, from what I've gathered, great guy. Everybody mess with Franco. Cool dude, real cool dude. And he exemplified to me coolness. And let me just give you guys a little story right quick and whatnot. Because like I said, I'm a historian before anything and whatnot. One of the earliest Super Bowl I can remember watching was Super Bowl IX, the Vikings, and that of that end of the Vikings and the Steelers, and I think it was ended up being 16-6 or something like that. It's a low scoring affair and whatnot. The defense was completely ridiculous, but at the time, Franco, which had the record, he rushed for like 158 yards on like 34 carries and a touchdown, and held that record for the long time until almost a decade later, until Marcus Allen broke it with 191 against the Redskins, the Raiders versus the Skins. Uh, Franco exemplified coolness to me. He was a cool dude. He rocked the fro, and he had the beard, goatee, as you see in the picture there. But he always rocked the beard. 6'2", 230 pounds. He was probably considered at the time probably one of the best uh, bad weather running backs. Like in the term that would be later known as a mutter and whatnot. He ran great in bad weather, playing in Three Rivers where it was cold, wet, and whatnot. He always got it done. He took a lot of flack, like from Jim Brown could say he ran the bounce, this, that, and the other, but teach his own. It is what it is. Uh, it kind of it hit me a little bit because being a Dallas fan, but then you look at the Steelers and whatnot, and how they was made, how they was built, and how that 1969 draft and taking Joe Green, uh, being like we're starting, and that was Chuck Knowles. I think it was his first. He had just got the job as the head coach, and he took a defensive tackle out of North Texas State and whatnot. So we've all pretty much know the story and stuff like that. If not, check out NFL Network, Football Life, and check out the Joe Green thing, one of my favorite ones and whatnot. And what it exemplified for me was with the fact that Joe Green, and then later on in 71 or 72, I think Franco got drafted there in the first round, big back and whatnot. And they got him and everything kind of just changed. And we also know tomorrow marks the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Also, they was going to, and they're still going to probably do it more than likely. Franco Harris, 32, is going to be retired, which I actually thought that it already happened. Sad that it took this long for it to happen, but that's neither here nor there. But those guys exemplified as a African American in this country. One of the things that was real cool about them was the fact that you had a black running back, you know, he's part black, part Italian, had the Franco's Italian army and stuff like that. Old Blue Eyes was a part of it and whatnot. And you'll see what Joe Green is messing with Franco and say, man, what does that mean? Hey, man, it's that Italian flag, da 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 da, and all this other kind of stuff. It was pretty cool to see that. But those guys, what it did for me as a young kid, basically a baby to an extent, but I remember it so vividly because they would play Dallas in Super Bowl 10 and whatnot. And what Franco did and what them guys did, you had their front four. But I'm gonna just end with Franco. Let's go with Franco. Franco, four-time Super Bowl champ, Hall of Fame class of 1990, first ballot, most career yards in Super Bowl history, has 354 yards. He played in 4 Super Bowls. That's a hell of a feat in itself. He has the most first to this day. Last Super Bowl he played in was in January of 1979. So that tells you right then and there nobody else has even gotten to that particular number. And it shows you the significance of what he did and how dominant Pittsburgh was back in the day, even with the damn shit. The Wheel family thing with the Pittsburgh Pirates and Willie Stargell and all those guys there, Pops and whatnot. But it was a lot deeper for me because I look at football as a thing of like, it's a sport, the greatest sport in my opinion, and how it transcends a lot of stuff. I can't think of the scout's name, but he started getting a lot of guys from the HBCU since that's been a major hot topic over the past couple of weeks and whatnot, especially since Dion took over a couple of years ago at Jackson State. And so it was a major thing. Guys like Mel Blount and all them guys would come up there and whatnot. But Franco, if we go and take a look at what Franco basically did as a player, Franco was a Hall of Famer, 9-time Pro Bowl. Back when Pro Bowls actually meant something, not that bullshit they had nowadays. Just one time first team All-Pro, all good, but he's a 4-time Super Bowl champ. Hall of Fame, all 70s team. Offensive Rookie of the Year. And all that. He did a lot of stuff, man. I mean, you go back and just take a look at the stats. It was great for like the 14-game season back during that time. And where he rolled out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight 100-yard rushing after his first, at his first 8 years, he did like basically 7 years of over 1,000 yards. Franco was that dude. A part of my childhood left, even though I'm not a Steelers fan of going against Dallas and all that stuff. Now they beat Dallas in both the Super Bowls and whatnot, in Super Bowl 10 and Super Bowl 12 games that they should have won. And this is a part of that is because people must wonder why. Well, you should have been like more Super Bowl. Should have been more not MVPs, but more Hall of Famers from that Dallas squad. But because they ran into that buzzsaw called the Steelers, this is what happened. And what made them so significant to me, what I looked at, because what beyond football, and one of the things that was really about them, because it was about defense. And one of the things about defense is when they had the steel curtain. You had that Dwight, you heard Ernie Holmes, Fats, L.C. Greenwood at the defensive end position there, Joe Green. Joe Green and Fats was at the tackle position, Greenwood and Dwight White was at the defensive end position. Joe Green is the only one left. All those other guys have unfortunately passed away and whatnot. Fats, Ernie Holmes is from around where I'm from. I know he passed away in Lumberton, Texas, which is down the road from where I came up at as a kid. Those guys was something special, and they made Time Magazine. Y'all, if you guys go back and check that out. Yeah, the steel curtain was the whole defense with Ham, Lambert, Russell, Edwards, Blunt, all those guys, right? And it's all good. You know what I'm saying? I would say we're not taking anything away from you guys, but that front four made it to the point where it's like they kept their linebackers clean. And the linebackers was able to do great things. And you're talking about a team who basically had three. Anytime you got a team that has some of the best guys in the 103 year of the 103 years of the game, that particular team garnered three defensive players of the year. You had, I think, Joe Green did it twice, Lambert once, Mel Blount once, and whatnot. And Ham was probably always up in Jack Ham was probably always up there in the running as well. They was something. That was a devastating bunch, to say the least. But they meant so much because when you saw those guys, you saw afros and you saw beards. And that meant a lot to me coming up as a kid. That always stuck with me, how they roll. You go to their offense, their receivers was Starworth, and then also Glenn Swan, the thing Swanee did and whatnot. Even though they in that '74 season didn't do a lot because it was all about defense those first couple of years, and then it started being about offense a little bit later on. Those last two Super Bowls that was won, and so to see Franco with him passing away, it took a little bit of my childhood from me because as much as I hated those guys, I remember losing 30 cents to David Stewart. Shout out to David Stewart, wherever you may be at, my man. He was a major Steelers fan. He even tried to throw the ball like Bradshaw. He actually had an arm. A skinny kid could throw the ball, skinny white kid. He threw the ball like Bradshaw. He loved the Steelers. And I lost 30 cents to him for that Super Bowl 12, which was probably what, fifth grade. And I lost 30 cents, one of the first bets I've ever made. I showed that I wasn't any good at betting. But at the same time, though, those guys meant a lot to me because they looked like my father, right? Guys wearing a fro, they wearing an afro, wearing a beard, wearing a goatee and stuff like that. But Franco was a great back, and that's why I say you have to, you can't keep doing these guys when it comes to Hall of Fame voting. You can't do these guys and lump them in with guys that played 15, 20 years after them and then try to sit up there and be like, okay, we were going to make a decision on them. Either they were the shit when they played or they wasn't. You can't do them that way. And Franco exemplified those backs of that particular period of time when they played in the 70s, in the early 70s through that of the early 80s. Even kind of from a historian standpoint of view, broke my heart when Franco left Pittsburgh and he ended up in the Seattle Seahawks uniform. That was just the ugliest thing I've ever saw. But that's the business of the game, though. But those guys meant a lot to me coming up as a kid. And a big respect out to that of the Steeler Nation, Terrible Towels and all them and whatnot. I love Drew Pearson's Dallas Cowboy, but he was like one of the main cats. Later on with Dorsett and stuff like that, and Newhouse and all those guys, Hollywood and whatnot. But the Steelers had that thing. You had your I think they was considered, even if you had the Purple People Eaters and you had them guys that played at the Rams with Deacon Jones, Lamar Lundy, and who else? Deacon Jones, Lamar Lundy, Rosie Greer, and whatnot. But these guys were like all these guys was all black. They played the steel curtain when they just made that masterful, doing things masterfully on that defensive front. So it was deep to really see them guys doing that and represent it to the fullest in that particular city. And it to be perfectly honest, man, it hurt me. I got into work, guy I work with. He said, hey, man, and he watches football. He's a Skins fan because he's from the area and stuff like that. Commanders, whatever the fuck they call him. And he said, hey, man, Fraco Harris passed away. I said, what? And then to find out he had just did an interview the night before or that same night and passed away Wednesday. I think he did the interview that, or whenever it was shortly after that, and he passed away peacefully from what I understand. I took a little piece of my childhood and also made me think about I'm getting older. These guys are in their 70s. Deep thing about Franco. And like I said, I still can't believe that his number wasn't already retired. I already know 12. I think 88 is still floating around there, but 58, 59, 75, that's not there. So I thought Franco would be right up there as well. And I don't understand why he hasn't, because in the end, and you've had some really good backs to come through Pittsburgh over the years, over the past 40 plus years, and made some all-pro teams and could have did this and could have did that, but just ended up flaming out. Franco put in almost 10, 11, 12 years with them. Let's go ahead and back and see it. He put in 12 years with them. and whatnot. And no back from that time has even lasted that way. I mean, even the bus, his first few years was that first 3 or 4 years was with the Rams, and then he later on would go over there, and he might got the records and all that stuff like that. But Franco, true Steeler, up and down the line, not to take anything from the bus. Bus was great, but Franco exemplified that because it was the running game and defense. Because they didn't have the like they would have in the latter years, starting in 78 till about 82, 83, the prolific offense where Bradshaw was throwing the ball, where he started making his bones as one of the elite quarterbacks in the league and whatnot. His MVP season and whatnot in 78, which I still say Earl should have got, but that's another story. But yeah, it took a little piece of my childhood, if you will, and uh, much respect to his family, much respect to the team from a football standpoint of view, from an NFL standpoint of view. That's a great loss. It's a great ambassador, I think, for not only for the Steelers, but for that of the NFL. Cool dude. Everybody said he was cool. Everybody loved him. It's a picture I think with him and Eric Dickerson, and those guys are great. And he was a great guy. A quick story they talk about in Super Bowl 12 where Hollywood Henderson was talking a bunch of noise. He said, "You guys are soft, play like girls, this, that, and the other." Franco went back to the huddle. Bradshaw already, they called him Brad, already basically knew the play. He said, "No, no, give me the ball." And Franco go up the middle for like 20 yards for a touchdown in that Super Bowl. So that's some legend stuff. The immaculate reception, the 354 uh, yards that he accumulated in going to 4 Super Bowls, the 9 Pro Bowls, the first team All Pro, and whatnot. That screams first ballot Hall of Famer and whatnot. And a major loss in 72. Being 72 and this stuff happened in 1972 is something. So I just want to say kudos to the Harris family. Uh, condolences go out to for your loss, and I think the NFL has lost a great ambassador of the sport, and Fraco Harris is one of the all-time greats. And like I say, you could say goats or whatever and stuff like that. That's fine, but he did his thing, and it's a damn shame. I really hate that. Like I said, a piece of my childhood is gone when you start seeing guys like this here leave. And as we well know, if we go back and just go look, like I said, all those guys of the steel curtain are all gone, with the exception of Joe Green and whatnot, of Mean Joe. And like I said, it was definitely. I meant to do this last night, but ended up falling asleep before I could get it done. Go to work in the morning, and much condolences to the Steeler Nation. Condolences to the obviously to the of the Harris family, and like I say, definitely. Um, Definitely a sad day for the NFL. Getting ready to watch this Jacksonville game with the Jets. It's a big game. See what happens with that. Like I tell you guys all the time, there's no greatest of all time as long as time is still going on. And like I say, numbers don't lie and get emotional. People do. Franco definitely had the numbers. You guys have a good one. Enjoy the game tonight.